Slay the Spire is an amazing card game that was released in 2019. This game is addicting and was created by the studio Megacrit, and this is their only game. When it was released, it seen numerous nominations for Indie Game of the Year, as well as PC Game of the Year, losing out only to games like Outer Wilds and World of Warcraft Classic. Slay the Spire is a deck-building roguelike, which is fairly simple to pick up, but it does have a good breadth of depth to it. You do eventually unlock 4 characters, but you start out with the Ironclad, who's really straightforward and easy to pick up. The Ironclad relies on red cards and starts with the healing passive item, which allows him to focus on having strong attacks and strong defenses that give you buffs and strengthen you. Over time, he also gets access to some trickier builds, such as sacrificing health to do more damage and get more energy, and using exhaust to your advantage. Still find him to be the most fun to play when you just want to have a quick, simple run. Now each of the characters focuses on a different deck color. Green, which is used by the Silent, does a lot of good damage, doing cheap flurries of attacks, and using weaker moves that give status and vulnerability to your enemies. Blue is used by the Defect. The Defect has an orb mechanic which he has to manage, as long as having a lot of zero cost cards, which you can build momentum with. He also uses a bunch of powers that can be stacked, making him a buffed monster. The fourth and final character you get is the Watcher. She uses cards that have different stances, allowing her to turn herself into a glass cannon, but you need to be careful, because if you don't balance it, the enemy might blow you up instead of having you blow them up. But she also has Scurry cards, which allows you to look into your deck, and she requires the most planning out of any other character. She's, in my opinion, the trickiest to use, but by the time you unlock her, you should kind of be ready for what she has going on. A nice feature is that each of the characters has numerous different styles they can use, usually about 3 each, and all of these are pretty well balanced. The only thing that really matters is making sure you synergize your deck correctly. Now the cards you get are somewhat random, although usually you're staying within your color, unless you have some weird item that's throwing things off a little bit. Additionally, there are white cards that go into any deck, and they usually have some interesting abilities like strong damage, damaging cards, enhancing cards, or even cards that let you subscribe to my channel. They're usually only available through the merchant and events, however sometimes you can get them when certain items are obtained. These are usually pretty powerful. The high-level overview of this combat system is you have energy that is used to play cards. The cards fall into 3 categories: attack, skills, and powers. Attacks allow you to hit, doing multiple damage. Skills allow you to use defensive skills or sometimes unique abilities, and powers give you passive buffs that can give you more energy, or give you free attacks, or all kinds of different things. You also get status cards, which are usually added to your deck only during the combat and removed afterwards, and they're basically there to just cripple your deck and kind of debuff you and fill up space in your hand. They can even damage you in some cases and take extra energy. Curses are cards that get stuck in your deck, and these basically always force negative effects as well, sometimes causing you damage, debuffs, or even limiting the amount of cards you can play in a turn. If you have the item Duvu Doll, you can actually make a deck where you get stronger the more curses you have, but it's a very niche build. And there are tons of other items in this game that can further help or enhance your abilities as you go through the Spire. You also get temporary potions too, which you use once, and they have a wide range of effect from doing damage, giving you free cards, giving you extra armor. They have just a lot of stuff they can do. Now there are 4 key acts in Slay the Spire, each with different enemies and events, and you select your path as you move forward in the Spire. You can find the friendly merchant, random events, treasure chests, and of course, enemies. Each act has different enemies, mini-bosses, and final bosses, all with different abilities and strategies that you'll need to use to defeat them. This means one strategy isn't always going to work, and you'll have to be adaptable. And the team took careful time to make sure they balanced the game perfectly. During the beta test, they were constantly overlooking what cards are being used a lot, and if any dominant strategies emerged. They compiled data upon data, seeing the percentages and the win-loss rates of every single card and tuned accordingly. Because of this, they would tweak the cards as they needed, and created a very, very balanced game. The game does start off pretty fair. However, once you slay the Spire more and more, you'll unlock different ascension levels, which give different buffs, like making enemies stronger, having more bosses appear, all kinds of things that are just going to give the enemies the advantage. These ascension levels are what causes a lot of replayability, as you'll have better and stronger cards available to you the more you progress, but you can also start having the enemies become stronger as well. There's also daily trials where they give you different items and different decks, and you can compete against other players' high scores in a competitive scenario. It's like an old school arcade board. I feel like I can safely say that I never truly had a bad deck, and if I did, it was because of a choice I made, not because the game was being unfair. Yeah, there's an element of luck, but it's mostly due to lack of knowledge and not knowing how to correctly synergize your deck, or going too attack heavy and ignoring defense, or the other way around, being too defensive and just not being able to do a killing blow. Because of how well this game is balanced, I do feel like it's an amazing card game that can be good for any player at any level. And while it does start off a little slow, it does keep ramping up, it keeps getting more difficult, and it does so at a good pace. and it always gives you that feeling of, dang, I just want to do one more run. Now, while the gameplay and the mechanics are amazing, the visuals are a little on the weak side. It does grow on you after a while, but I can't say this game is beautiful by any means, and the music is fairly weak as well. I mean, it serves its purpose and is fitting, but it's kind of generic and not really any bangers in this game. Overall, I think I want to rate this game about an 8.7. The reason being is while it's mechanically pretty sound, the art style, while not offensive, is a little lackluster. And the game does apparently have a story, although I have no clue what it is from my playtime, and you have to see it from external methods, and I just don't like when games do that. I feel like it could get a 9, but it would have to nail everything perfectly, and just because of these these story and visual little things, I think that brings it down just a little bit. That said, I can't wait to see what else the studio does. And let me know in the comments below if there's any other card games you might want me to check out.